Mechanic. Or smaller. Got a lot of these. I went through Redstone. I got a comment about
Who is that? Yeah.
I'm rushing into it. Sorry. Yeah, that's not long.
Are you coming over here for now? You just give me more hugs. Oh, I like that.
Patty, what's going on with your job situation at the moment?
Oh, I'm
And they went back to full time,
4 weeks.
and you're not, you were done with Stan a while ago, right?
4 weeks ago.
Okay. What?
We can't be done.
Yeah, we gotta be good though while we're doing it, okay?
I like the green one on my favorite.
Let me try one.
So, Pirates.
I think I like the orange ones.
Yeah, I wanna see that. My brother said it was really good. Do you like
They're
it?
the ones that taste like apples.
I wasn't a big fan of the last one. I really liked the first
So you're
one.
gonna sit and pick out all the green ones, or just gonna eat them all?
I've been looking forward to this one
Just eat
because
all of them.
I love a good villain in a movie. And this guy, I've seen him. in other
Oh, okay.
movies, and he is
All right.
just-
Captain
Hey,
Solomon.
Kayla had her
yeah,
baby.
the guy that plays him.
Kayla had her baby
You ever seen No Country for Old Men?
yesterday morning.
I mean, he is brutal in that movie.
He's the one that did the air rifle.
Well, right now they're still in the
It's like
hospital.
I thought it was a shotgun with silencer. I think
Right,
it's a shotgun.
they'll be back in
with
Oh,
a
the
few
silencer.
days.
No. Oh, yeah. He's got the tank. He carries around the tank of air. But at the end of the movie, he has a shotgun with a silencer on it. Yeah, he's
I
hard.
forgot he was in that.
So, but you did like it? How do you rank it compared to the other ones?
Yes, definitely.
I like it better than the last one.
He was getting irritated because I was holding it close.
Yeah.
It's probably up there with the first one.
I really like the second, third one with Davy Jones too. Remember?
Star Wars. Star Wars is ready to see everything.
Don't run with those.
Watch Pitch Black.
Set them down.
It's kinda weird.
Either
Star Wars
close them up
Chronicles
or
are ready.
don't run with them.
I've never seen it. That's a link to that,
Yeah,
right?
there's 3 of them. The third ones are ready.
If you don't hear
It's kind of like that since she kind of likes him in Fast and Furious.
Yep. I like him in Guardians of the Galaxy. I am Groot. I wonder how much
He probably got a lot of money for just saying.
I wonder how
Those
much he
words,
got paid. Like I've wondered that. I'm like, I wonder how much you get paid for saying I am Groot.
'Cause he was still the voice for Baby Groot.
I know. That's, you guys saw that movie,
Yeah,
right?
that was good.
Oh, that was great.
from Mama.
What was it?
Mama.
The music is excellent. Both those movies.
The bug bites?
Big movie I love.
I get lots of bug bites from her.
He had more
I don't get bug bites from her.
comic parts.
He's funny in the first one too,
He just
though.
says like,
He is hilarious.
he just says what things like you're ugly
I
beautiful in a good way. You're ugly. And later on, he goes,
Do.
"You're beautiful on the inside."
Yes. He's like,
That's different.
he's hilarious. In the first one, I mean, I love the first one. I watched it. What made it a fantastic movie was when he was like, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it. And I was like, that was the
He made the second better
oh man.
because he had more than just those one-liners. Was like really.
Flower box.
Yeah, he is hilarious. He's a professional wrestler too. That's what cracks me up. He's so well.
Did you do that? Good job.
Right, what's his name?
He's slobbering all over me.
Say please.
It's not Thrax. It's
Rex?
Rex, maybe.
Not sure.
Okay, I'm in a
But I like
the.
I like Walker. He had a more attitude. Like, hey, don't get close to my personality.
Yeah. He's a real, I mean, gosh, I never knew of those characters. I never knew that. But the movie is just excellent. I mean, like Bradley Cooper does.
I think that was the sixth one.
I was gonna suggest we get.
When the,
Do you like how I
goalkeeper, whatever, had the value. They said, yeah, we're gonna create something.
Well, I was confused what they were talking about.
They said they were gonna create something that's more powerful, that was gonna go after them.
Well, and I tried to look it up because she called it Adam. And I tried to look it up on the Marvel wiki and I couldn't find what she was even.
Adam referred to
Sorry, I was gonna wave the
one
new
of the
baby.
characters. I think that was the sixth one.
They're good.
That might have been the sixth one.
Yeah.
If that's not it, it's gonna have to be.
Wait, I have to work.
Because isn't the next Avengers is against Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos having all six stones.
With the what?
I said it over there.
With
It
the
says,
what?
the scepter, whatever, carries all six
Oh, that's
stones.
what you said. Go.
So it's either that one's the stone or the next one.
That big cool puppy at a lunch pack.
So we'll see.
That was
I
good
like
too.
the resonance, but.
He is a humorous dude, man. I mean, Chris Hemsworth, he was hilarious in Ghostbusters. And have you seen the trailer for Next Door?
Yeah.
When he's in that arena, he's like,
I know him. We're friends.
we work together.
And she was tired of the surgery.
All right, 727, Big Blue
And
Books.
she would like jerk this right now.
727.
I think they're mine.
Let's do the first and fourth verse, 727. Encamped along the hills of light, he says, and your soldiers rise and press the battle ere the night shall veil the glowing skies. Against the foe in veils below, let all our strength be hurled. Faith is the victory we know that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. To him that overcomes the foe, white raiment shall be given. Before the angels he shall know his name confessed in heaven. Then onward from the hills of light, our hearts with love aflame, will vanquish all the hosts of night in Jesus' conquering name. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. 693 will be our prayer hymn. Things on the prayer list this week. Of course, please keep those in your prayers coming back from Lancaster. They come back. It goes through tomorrow, doesn't it?
Tomorrow noon.
So that okay. So as they're coming back tomorrow, of course, sounds like it's been a great camp. Had a lot of people travel from out west to come to the camp this year. Sounds like. Keep in mind, we'll have. I think the plan is still we'll have the Mazingos visiting next week, so they'll be here. We'll have our fellowship meal and afternoon, but they'll be around, so we'll see them and their crew. Michigan Kids Camp, if you can be praying for that, that's coming up pretty quickly, June 11th through the 15th. If you know of any kids 8 to 18 that want to go, registration is $80, but the congregation will pay for half of that. Okay. And let me know as soon as possible so I can get you kind of a list of what the kid would need and everything. I'm going there with Kaylee, so I can fit as many in my van as I can fit. So VBS is coming up too. Please keep that in your prayers. That's always a pretty big effort on the part of the congregation. Of course, we want to keep that spiritual focus in mind as we can have an impact on the kids and hopefully get the chance to develop new relationships. Our brethren throughout the world, all the worldwide efforts of the gospel. Our brother in Signani, want to keep them in our prayers. The Hostetters, both those in Cameroon and in Ghana. The efforts of Direct Connect in Belarus and Vietnam. And, the Thomases in India, want to pray for them as well as they get ready to travel to the States. Military and their families. And all the sacrifices they make. We can have Noah with us today and see him home for a few days. Always want to be praying for him for his safety. And spiritual opportunities and effectiveness in the new week. Always want to have that first and foremost in our minds. Other things, you missed on the pearl? Yes.
My niece had her baby yesterday.
Okay.
And Emily's chemo treatments, I told you it was Thursday, but she couldn't do the third one because her blood count was wrong, not good enough. But after just 2 episodes, 2 treatments, the growth is 50% decreased. Yeah, she goes for the 3rd treatment Tuesday.
Yes.
Feeling wants to put the icing on this.
Put the ice goggles with Stephen. Yeah, we haven't really talked about them much. Please keep them in your prayers with all their efforts. I think most people know here that they adopted Stephen before they came back to the States and just had an absolute nightmare getting the United States to recognize that Ghanaian adoption. So they continue to work at that. I mean, they've been in scenarios where they've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and had to start all over. And so it's just pretty wacky. So please keep them in your prayers and those efforts to get that finalized. Anything else please mention? All right, announcements coming out in the month of June. Lord's Supper is K. Mays. Building cleanup is the Snyders. Not sure which, I assume it's Snyders. I still think of Patty as a Snyder. Yeah, she's not having a Snyder for a long time.
A long time. A long time.
Something like that. I said this morning, time goes too fast. So. Third week fellowship will be the Brightmans. They're providing the meal. Appreciate that. June 4th will be a VBS meeting. That is next Lord's Day. Things that really need, just as a reminder, I'd like to be in place for that meeting, is the banner needs to be ready. So you might grab that today. This vinyl printer person. Flyer ready. We're good. And then I'm gonna try to have the whole schedule ready for next week too, so we have that mystery. And then any teachers or station leaders, just want to make sure you've kind of looked over your stuff and are ready to address any questions.
So this is the stuff you talked about?
As far as station leaders and things, I want them to look over their booklet and their material primarily. Kay, I know Kay's already. She's got most of her materials and everything. Kay and Grandma are really the two that have to line up material lists and things like that for the most part. But teachers of the class, I'd like them to glance over their lesson just so they're familiar. So, and then I don't know when decorating typically starts. Okay. I don't want to be involved with that at all.
Probably about mid-June.
Mid-June. Yeah, we should be good on, at some point, just remember I'll be going on June 11th through the 15th. So if you guys get an idea of any materials or supplies you need, I would hope we have enough foam board to last us a while. So, but if you need, I think your heat knives are dead and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
July 17th through the 21st is VBS, and the Thomases did confirm they will be here and be part of that, which would be great. But everyone in the congregation, just as a little reminder, we learned after the first year or two that any type of efforts to really market didn't really do anything compared to word of mouth. Okay, so if you have nieces, nephews, grandkids, friends, whatever, just mention to them. We'd love to have them. I mean, every kid that's come, I think, really enjoys it. But normally, I mean, my goal is usually 30 to 40 kids. I think that fits pretty well in our building, our staff, and everything. So, any other announcements that you made aware of? All right. Uh, 693. And let's do the first and fourth verse. Russ, can you pray for us, please? First and fourth verse. The Lord's our rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Secure whatever will betide, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. O rock divine, O refuge dear, a shelter in the time of storm. Be thou our helper ever near, a shelter in the time of storm. O Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm.
Great and awesome Father in heaven, Lord, we come before you this morning. We come before the throne, in the throne room of heaven. We know that you hear our prayers as we come through the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, we thank you for loving us and for hearing our prayers. Thank you for all that you have given us, the hope of salvation. We thank you for the church and that we can be part of it. Lord, I just thank you for the many answered prayers that we received from you, and pray that you would hear our prayers this morning. Lord, that you would be with those who have lost loved ones, those who are sick. Father, just be with those who are traveling, keep them safe and watch over them. Be with the military, the individuals who protect this country and who help us to have the freedoms to spread the word to the rest of the world. Lord, help us to take advantage of that. Father, I just pray that you would be with us throughout the rest of the morning here, that all that we say and do would be acceptable to you. Lord, that we would focus on the things that are spiritual throughout the upcoming week and make every effort to reach people for you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thanks, Russ. 713. Got three. First and second verse, 713. Let's do both those, and then the guys will come forward as we come around the table. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I just wanted to mention a simple principle this morning that I think it's important for us to be appreciative of and to think of, especially as we come around this table. Sometimes there are verses in the scripture that are just short and simple and doesn't really take a lot of thought, but it's very reassuring. And one of those is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, that says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And, this about a week ago, I actually met with a facilities manager for Walmart over in Rushville. She came in, she's in charge of a number of different Walmart facilities, and asked if I could meet her over there just to kind of look over any repairs that need done. And we walked around the building, and I thought it was kind of funny that she said, I hate to tell you this. I know the former owner just painted the building about a year ago, but we have a new color scheme that we're going to. And she said and we had just had a conversation about how in the big corporate world, it seems like the pendulum swings back and forth, and sometimes you just have to wait. And I said, well, what's the color scheme? She's like, blue and gray. And I'm like, didn't they all used to be blue and gray? And then they went to brown all the way across the country. And she laughed. She's like, yeah, the pendulum swung, so it's going back to blue and gray. And, that reminded me that, when I was in high school and worked for Kmart, there was probably a year there where I worked in pantry. And sometimes you felt working in a job like that there were, I always used to joke there was a bunch of guys and gals sitting around a desk on the 100th floor somewhere saying, let's do that. And the second they said, let's do that, that resulted in thousands and thousands of man hours. And then one day they're like, no, that wasn't a good idea. Let's do. And one of the things I'll never forget is they had this idea that they wanted to put these tags out from the shelf. If you're standing in the aisle and you look down, you don't see any price tags. Well, they wanted this clip to go on the shelf that had a big card looking thing. Well, hundreds and hundreds of man hours just in the Connersville store to write out, literally, we got a black marker, wrote out the price, attached it to the clip, attached the clip to the shelf. Well, when you get done, you stand at the front of the aisle, you can't see any of the cards because there's so many cards lined up down through there. And I remember over the course of 1 year, they went back and forth on those cards 3 different times. Put the cards up, no, take them down, we think it looks cluttered. Put them back up, no, take them down, we think it looks cluttered. There was a time where I think that's all the department heads did all day long for 8 hours was putting the cards up. And it's just funny that's pretty consistent in almost any type of business situation. There are decisions that are made, things that are tried out, things that are experimented with, and it definitely creates a lot of waste at times, maybe a lot of waste of time and resources. But we have a God that doesn't need to change, doesn't need to change his mind, doesn't experiment with something that ultimately isn't the supremely wise, right thing to do. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His plan has always been perfect, and his pattern has always been consistent. And as we come around this table and we remember what Jesus did, we remember God's plan of redeeming us, God's plan of fixing sin, and that we are blessed to live in a time where we are the recipients of that great blessing and that grace, a time in which angels long to look, that those prior to Jesus would love to be a part of. Peter says that they long to know what person or time the Spirit of Christ within them was indicating. Okay, the prophets, as they prophesied of Jesus Christ, they wanted to know, they wanted to be part of it, and we get to be here. So, I encourage you as you partake today, just in honor of the God that we serve, realize his supreme wisdom and his supreme love and the consistency of that towards us who believe. Let's pray.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this wonderful morning that you brought each and one of us just here just to worship you, my Lord. And just pray as we take these emblems this morning that we can remember the sacrifice that you gave us, and just pray that with the consistency that you've had and shown the love for us, that we'd go out and be the light for you, my Lord, and just pray that as we're more like you and just be consistent with the love that you have shown for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
As I mentioned last week, I hope you guys don't mind me taking a couple weeks to go over Belarus. I've always tried to cram it into 1 week in the past, and it just hasn't worked out well. I'm bound and determined to get it done in a half an hour, and it ends up going crazy long, and then I have no time really to answer questions or anything like that. And it's important to me to I want to tell you about this not only because of the efforts of Direct Connect, but also just to make us aware of the differences that brethren might face in another country, the different obstacles that they might have and deal with. And I really think that can be a source of encouragement and strength to our faith. You know, sometimes, and I've made this comment before, I think one of the most dangerous things we need to be aware of is that the cultural situation of our country is not put in as a foundation stone of our faith. Okay, the way things work in this country have absolutely nothing to do with God's plan. Have absolutely nothing to do with the way we're supposed to live as Christians, and in many cases, you know, can be a hindrance or can have an effect that God didn't necessarily intend. One thing that I don't think I mentioned this last week, but just such a different cultural situation. Did I mention the social parasite last week? The tax? Okay. I joked with Rachel that she would be labeled a social parasite in Belarus because she doesn't have a recognized job where she earns an income. Well, just such a different thing that seems so foreign to us. We can't even, imagine something like that. But that affects people like Oleg's wife, who is convicted to be a stay-at-home mom and raise her kids with character and principles and things like that. So, there's oftentimes over there where you're just dealing with things that people are facing that is so different than what we deal with in the United States. And I'm sure it's different in every country. I'm sure when Steve goes to Vietnam, it's different types of things that they deal with as well. So these things, I want it to be encouraging, but it also gives me a chance to talk about some of the spiritual things that are dealt with. As I've said before, I think Direct Connect's approach is the most prime evangelistic example, I guess, or following the pattern of exactly what Jesus did. Jesus always dealt with the physical needs first that people were dealing with and were consumed with. And we all know that whenever sickness enters our family, or the tragedy of death, or financial trouble, the world we live in today, finances can just rot your brain because they don't go away. You're worried about it all the time. Those are the type of things we deal with these days, as opposed to needing to give the multitude bread and fish. So it's some of those things that we deal with and need to address while we're over there. So I hope you guys can bear with me. I actually went ahead and decided got through about 30 of my 120 slides last week. So if you're willing to bear with me, I'm going to do half this week and then the last part next week. And that way, for those people who are in Lancaster that I think they would be interested to ask some questions and things, they'll get the chance to do that. So this was where we left off, and I mentioned to you that we've done a number of these seminars. A lot of times, Mike will do the seminars on specific spiritual topics, and the goal of this particular trip was the mind of Christ. So he talked a lot about the mind of Christ, and these seminars, like I said, you have people so interested in participating in it. Well, it's a big Bible study. It's an hour and a half, 2 hour long Bible study, and it's great fellowship. Mike and I, this is our apartment that we stayed in, and it's 2 rooms and a kitchen. You're talking these apartments are just tiny. You're talking maybe 500 square feet, if that. This is Mike's bedroom, which sort of had this little living area. Well, we just packed into the bedroom, and outside his bedroom is a hallway, and then there's my bedroom, and then there's the kitchen. And the kitchen it doesn't have a built-in dining room. Super small. And after, in the middle of this whole thing, we just got together in the kitchen, stood around, had tea and fellowship, and they actually brought something to eat that day that it was like a cheese quesadilla, but the bread was not tortilla. It was like a cake. It was almost like a cheese pie or a cheesecake or something. It's kind of interesting. But I think I mentioned to you, these are primarily the people from the Instrumental Church congregation there in Belarus. Okay, you've heard me refer to it before as the Little Green Church, probably. It is the Instrumental congregation, which, along with the non-instrumental congregation, was started around the same time, 25 years ago. But then, whenever a time came when the individual who started those had to leave because the religious pieces were canceled, they were kind of floating out wherever. Okay, so we have good relationships with them. We try to maintain those and try to encourage. I can't remember if I showed this last week. This is an example of Mike teaching, and I think it's kind of interesting to see the way teaching conveys through translation. Assuming, of course, I have the sound on the computer on.
The sign language? Yeah, Mike does scripture whisper. And I think I've told you guys, obviously, Mike, we always use Oli any chance we can, largely just because of his spiritual conviction. We know that he wants to convey what Mike is saying as accurately as he can. There are times where we use interpreters. You guys have heard me talk about Yulia. I mean, she's acknowledged that she's not a believer in kind of in the beliefs that we deal with. So those things, she's an excellent interpreter, but we, if we can use Oleg, we like to use Oleg because he's a Christian brother. And he's talking about spent a lot of time there with Joseph, and talked about Joseph kind of having that dream of something that would happen many, 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 many years in the future. And ultimately, as Christians, that it's good for us to have a forward focus, for us to think about those things, think about goals and things that we aspire to in our faith. We had one of those, I think we had that congregation there one evening and they came the next evening. The next day we spent time, this is Tanya Z. And Tanya Z is the gal that I've talked about in the past, that she was the director of a center for disabled people, okay? I don't know if I showed you guys the painting that I brought back last time, and I have a couple of things at my house that are just beautiful crafts that these disabled, essentially high school kids or young adults do at that particular center. And Mike has known Tanya Z for a pretty long time. But she raised 5 kids on an income of about $200 a month is what she was making there. Again, any job linked to a government salary or government sanctioned job just absolutely pays nothing. I mean, it's so strange. And keep in mind, those government jobs are jobs that many times we would think is private, such as doctors and attorneys and teachers. All those things are government sanctioned and therefore make a very, very low wage. But she's had some kind of changes in her life. She is no longer with that center because the government simply came in, and she actually had a supervisor that was over a number of centers. That supervisor was investigated and fired, and so they fired all of his subordinates just to make sure there was no problems. So she had worked in this center and worked with these people for years and years and years, and they just came in and said, sorry, we're taking the job away and refreshing it. So what she is doing is privately, she is still working with disabled adults. She meets with them and tries to help them. Well, one project she has going right now that's kind of neat is she works with these guys who are all blind. I think this guy has like 4% vision in his right eye, and they're a band of musicians. So this is the kind of thing where you think evangelistic work, you wouldn't think of this. But Direct Connect actually bought these guys some sound equipment so that they could play. And we maintain the ownership of the sound equipment, but we're letting them use it. There's, I think, 4 guys and 1 gal, and they're all disabled. And I mean, to them, that was just the world to them. They were so appreciative and so thankful. We went to the music store. This is one of the guys here who's, again, blind as well. I mean, has very, very little vision. And talked about what they needed and everything, and we bought the equipment. So it creates an opening, it creates a door, it creates an opportunity. This is a gal that again, have had that relationship for many, many years. Kind of like Dave said this morning. I mean, you keep sowing the seed, and you hope something grows. But you really get a feel in this type of work that God causes the growth. I mean, you can't make it grow. Our job is to sow the seed and see what happens. So we got them some sound equipment. Again, that's Dima. He was with us that day. From there, and I'll show you, I actually have a video of them playing. They actually got to play out kind of on a public grandstand during their Victory Day celebration at one of the parks. So I have a recording of that here in a little bit. Then we went with Tanya. Her oldest son, I believe, just had their first child. So she's a grandma. And we went to spend some time with her daughter-in-law and her granddaughter. So that's what I mean. It's like a different world over there. Babies love Mike. I mean, not everything. You know, it's just, I don't know what's going on. It's and of course, you know, we sat down. I mean, the hospitality over there amazes me. Like, I realized even more this trip. Food cost over there is their biggest financial strength, is food. I mean, for us, I think sometimes it's probably housing and the costs that go along with housing. It's not for them. For them, it's food. And yet, everywhere you go, you are sat down at a lovely table with tea and cookies and crackers and treats and all. I mean, they just don't even think. They just present that to you right away. You know, they ask if you want coffee or tea, and they put out just all kinds of good stuff. So Tanya actually, Mike loves kvass, like I told you guys about. It's a Belarusian drink. I've never had beer, but it has to be what non-alcoholic beer tastes. It tastes very grainy. Not from a texture standpoint, but it tastes like you're drinking liquid wheat or something like that. So, but he loves the stuff, and it came up in conversation. I love this stuff that they have over there quite often. They actually tap birch trees and they drink the sap right out of the birch tree. I mean, it is delicious, and they'll put fruit and stuff in it, and it's almost like this. It's almost like flavored water with a little bit of sweetness. I love it. But anyway, somehow that came up in conversation with her. Well, she said, I make my own kvass out using birch sap. And Mike felt bad the whole trip because they made this effort to get us this huge 2-gallon thing of kvass, and he hated it. He couldn't drink it. But it's like, I don't know what was going on with that, but that was not what I liked. So, you know, it was kind of funny trying to deal with that. But they made it out of birch sap, and there's birch trees everywhere over there. And their birch trees are so different than ours, I think. They are skinny and super tall. I mean, our birch trees, they get bigger and have more arms and stuff. I mean, these are skinny, and there are branches at the top. They look like a pine tree in a way. So, again, this was the second day. This is Olga Petrova. I've talked about her in the past. A gal there at the congregation that is pretty impactful. Again, Oleg's wife. I don't know if you can see this. This is a stork's nest. There's a couple storks sitting there. It's wild to see those things. I mean, they are huge. They're a little bit bigger than the cranes we see around, but their nests are just massive. I mean, you'll see these old water towers everywhere that probably have I bet they have every bit of an 8-foot diameter to them. I mean, they're not huge water towers like we'd be used to. 8-foot diameter, the entire top is a stork's nest, and they're just all over the place. And I mean, it's kind of seen as a symbol in Belarus. I mean, they like having them around, but they stink horribly. So whatever you want there. Okay, so this is what I'm taking a picture of. We with Vera, the gal at the Red Cross, we went around to see a few people one day, and we went to see a husband and wife who, for all intents and purposes, I've talked about Mama Nina, how Mama Nina takes as many orphans as she can get. These people do that as well. And they for probably 20 years have been taking orphans and raising them. Well, they were given, because of that work, they were given an old elementary school as their home. Because when they started this, their story just blew my mind. When they started this, they were living in a flat, and he said that it was 75 square meters. That was their apartment. Okay? So you're talking about, what are you talking about? Square meter probably has maybe 10 or 11 square feet in it. So you're talking about a 600 or 700 square foot apartment. And they brought on multiple kids while they had their own kids living in this flat. So they're living in a 700 square foot apartment, had multiple kids. And they said even when they started, the adoption authorities thought they were trying to do something fraudulent, because they're like, this doesn't even make sense that you would want these kids and don't have room to put them. And they're like, no, we want the kids. We love the kids and want to have the kids. And from that point on, it just started where they wanted to do everything they could to help take care of kids. Well, it's like only bring up their names and stuff. But I wanted to show this because this is their garden. You know, people who do stuff like this, they get a little bit of a stipend from the government, but they have to be as self-sustaining as they possibly can be, because there's just hardly money there. And that thing is huge. I mean, that's probably 75, 80 feet to his side. And I mean, he tilled the thing with a horse and a plow. Okay, didn't till it with a rototiller, didn't till it with a tractor. And this guy is pretty neat. He actually, this is Vera. This is his wife, and his wife's name is Valentina. Let me find my notes here. Sergey and Valentina. They have 3 grown children. They were given, again, the old kindergarten. They got convicted about orphans when their children were young. They adopted 2 kids when they had 3 of their own living in that apartment that I was talking. You know, they might have actually said 25 square meters. That makes more sense. They had an apartment that was 25 square meters, because I have down that it was about 100 square feet. 100 square foot apartment. Means they probably were living in a room with a bathroom, is what they were doing. They currently have 9 adopted children. 15 have become adults. They had 4 of their own kids. They asked the government to open their own orphanage or foster care. They had to wait for years. They've been there 11 years right now. I asked them in total how many children they had been involved in raising, and it was 27. 27 kids. But he's got, you know, they kind of have a neat little yard here, neat little compound. He actually is a former power lifter. So he's a pretty energetic dude, pretty, I mean, just really neat guy, really sweet. I mean, again, this was the first time we met them. So I really appreciate Mike. You know, we talked to, he has a relationship with the guy who is essentially over child services for that entire region, and the guy loves Mike to death. I mean, since this was the first time we met him, we asked that guy about them, said that they do phenomenal work, they love the kids, everything is great. So this is us talking. Again, this is Vera's daughter, Sasha, who was interpreting for us that day. 270, that sounds about right. This is their son swinging. I just wanted to show that it's not a big fancy swing set like we have. It's just a homemade swing. And they made what they can. So, I mean, simple. You know, I thought it was interesting in each corner of their property, they had these huge old trees that they had stork's nests on. And they loved it, you know. There's a stork's nest. This is a picture of the structure, very simple structure. And again, for 11 years, the inside is beautiful. And they have just made with what they have. I mean, he said at times people have come in and donated a little bit of money from the organization, but there's no constant supply. They just, if they get any help, they do with what they can. I also want to show you the playground equipment. You know, I remember some of that when I was a kid. Of course, you never see that ever again in the United States. Metal slides, metal bars, metal, you know, all over the place. Rust. I think this was the girls' room. I mean, again, they have 9 kids there now, and I'm just amazed how clean and tidy everything is. I mean, those are beds they sleep in. That's how neat and tidy it was in the middle of the day when we showed up. This was the boys' room. Again, it was well done. I mean, and this guy had done everything himself with any money or resource he had. I've seen this a few different places. I don't know if we really have these in the United States, but they almost have these indoor play gym things that I mean, there's bars you can climb on and a rope and stuff you can swing on, and it's all just anchored to the wall. You know, didn't play with it. I want to show this was their laundry room. Again, 9 kids, 2 adults. And this was the thing that we actually decided to help them with. And it's amazing. I don't know. It's just, if you ran into people like this in the United States that are trying to have an impact, that guy Russ mentioned earlier today that we were talking about has evangelistic ideals, but just seems to be bitter all the time and not having the ability to do so. You do not run into that over here. You practically have to cry out of people if there's something that you can help them with. And when we finally did that, they have 1 bathroom in the structure, 1 shower. And when we finally cried out of the guy, is there something that would be helpful? You know, they don't have a working lawnmower. I was thinking lawnmower up to this point, but he said it would really be helpful to have a second shower. And I'm like, no kidding, you know, and 9 kids and 2 adults. So Direct Connect, actually, while we were there, Vera, who is with the Red Cross, I told her she and I laughed because she is my kind of gal. We told her, we're like, get all the specs, the quotes, all this stuff of what it's going to take. She had it to us in 3 days and all this stuff. And we were laughing because I told her I was getting all excited how organized she was. But Direct Connect is going to put a shower in this bathroom because all that bathroom was a couple sinks and a toilet. But we're going to put a shower in that bathroom, and we provided the funds and everything to do that before we left. Again, something simple, but it's something that opens the door, guys, to that family and that.
It'll be more efficient just to put in
That could be industrial dishwasher or something.
Hang them up on there.
Open the door and yep. But just really neat family. I mean, to me, this is where I get really. I just want to do anything I can to help people like it. These are people who sacrifice their lives to help children that otherwise would have an extremely high potential of just disappearing. I mean, just going away or going into the system or getting into trouble or dealing with all this stuff. And I mean, they raise them up and have an impact. And I think it's amazing. So I know I was excited to kind of help them with something, whatever we could. And, you know, Mike Direct Connect was willing to help with that as well. So there's a stork's nest. See how big that thing is? There's the bathroom. Here's a table they brought them in for lunch. And it's interesting to me how different meals are there. I mean, for lunch you eat soup. That's what you eat. You eat soup and some bread. And it's good. I don't know why we don't do that. I mean, I think it'd be easier on all our stomachs and stuff if we did that. I mean, I think we're so used to fast food, but they brought them all in, gave them soup. You know, they had some little. A lot of times they'll have kielbasa sausage. I mean, a really greasy sausage that you'll maybe eat one slice of, sort of thing. But you know, again, they gave us tea and stuff. That's the family currently. So, I mean, these are all kids. I was really, really sad because they had a ping pong table set up and we didn't have time to play. I wouldn't play. They said that this boy is their resident ping pong champion in the house. So, again, Vera, Red Cross.
They're not Bruce, so
This is their gents. We're standing outside a little cafe. We're getting ready to eat lunch at after meeting that family. A lot of stucco type building, you know, I mean, they always do the raw block. Like, I don't know how they build their houses because their houses are all built out of 12-inch thick by about 18-inch long by about 1 foot deep blocks. Concrete blocks. I mean, they just build them out of that. And then if there's money there, they come along and they do like a stucco finish. But a lot of times you'll just see it's concrete block and they just go from there. You know, I mean, it's
Like office park.
bigger than that. I mean, our cinder blocks these blocks are 4 times the size of that. At least. I mean, they're just huge. And I've never actually seen people assembling them, but I mean, it's got to be a 2-man job just to put the block on in place. So.
Now you know why they're on wood.
Right. Earlier, I showed you that Mike got to do a Bible study and preach at Vera's congregation. This is the preacher and his wife from that congregation, and their names are Boris and Alona, and they're really sweet people. But again, it's just interesting there how he is extremely receptive and loves that Mike comes. And there's not the denominational question for a lot of these people, you know. There's not now wait a second, who officially are you affiliated with? Because if you're not affiliated with whatever, then we can't have it, you know. That isn't there. I mean, if there's an opportunity for sound teaching, and then they're interested. But this is one of those cafes. I got to tell you guys a story. This is funny. Last time I went, I used my Google Maps to save a lot of places, and it was really cool. I mean, I could show a cabbie and get there. Well, in Dzержinsk, of course, Dzержinsk, I think I told you guys is what example did I use? It's Milton to Connorsville, okay, or whatever. I mean, it's just outside of Minsk, but it's its own community. Well, we had eaten at this cafeteria thing in Dzержinsk. And I literally had in my notes that we ate for $2.50 a person. And Oleg is a stinking garbage disposal. I mean, that guy we go out for meals, and I'm just frustrated because I'm like, why do I weigh 3 times what Oleg weighs? Because I'll get some soup and some bread, and he gets a salad and some soup and some bread and an entree and all this stuff. And I mean, he's skinny as can be, but I remembered that he was with us. And Nikolai was with us last time I was there, and it was good food. You literally go through like a cafeteria, like Miller's cafeteria, and you sit at it. So I show that to Vera, and I'm like, hey, can we eat here? I remember it being really good. She's like, we can't eat there. And I'm like, why not? She's like, it turned into a strip club. So I just thought it was kind of funny that I'm like, well, their food was good. Are you sure you don't want to still eat there? So this place opened up apparently when the other place went sour. And so we ate here, but it was pretty good. The other place was, I remember it. But these places are extremely cheap. I mean, we all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Mike, we all ate for $15. And I mean, it's just a simple little cafeteria that you get you can grab salad. They've got, I mean, their food was delicious. They've got all kinds of potatoes, which is real big in Belarus. They'll have some type of meat. They've got desserts if you want it. You grab pop, tea, water, coffee, whatever. I mean, I don't understand why it's so cheap compared to other places.
Why is that so cheap? And you're talking about their
Their groceries. Their groceries are outrageous.
But how can that be?
I don't know. Well, it's cheap to me compared to what we would pay here. But keep in mind, we went to McDonald's, and me and Mike, it cost $10 to eat at McDonald's. But most Belarusians, they won't even dream of going to McDonald's because it's just too expensive and first of all, I see it as extremely unhealthy, but it's way too expensive to eat that. And that's what's wild. I mean, the groceries are nuts. Like, again, I'm talking about people that have $200 to $500 a month incomes. That's the majority of the people that we associate with, maybe up to $1,000. But their cost of living is like 90% of ours. So imagine all the costs we have, multiply it by 90%, so it all drops a little bit, but now cut your income in half or worse. You know, I mean, it's just nuts. But their grocery costs they're just huge. If you go buy a 2 liter of pop there, you're going to pay about 80 or 90 cents. I mean, here you'll pay $1. So it's not like it's proportionally less, you know. And some of that may be too, it's very possible some of that may be city difference, you know. I mean, I'm talking about the things that people in Minsk face. We're kind of in a suburb here. I mean, we ate at a little restaurant in a suburb of Minsk. If we ate at a nicer cafeteria in Minsk, it might have been a little bit. I don't understand how it's so cheap. I really don't know. I had an entire plate of food. I mean, really good food. I mean, it's cheap. That's Sasha with the hat. Everyone loves the hat. I don't know if you can see that very well. But she was laughing, pretending to be Mike, because she was going to interpret for Mike that evening in a Bible study, and she was going over his notes. And at some point, we just said if she wears the hat, maybe people just think she's Mike. And she can just do the lesson in Russian. So. I think I took this picture just to kind of show what all the buildingscape looks like. Just apartment buildings everywhere. I have not been to New York City or even Chicago, really. But I mean, again, I wonder sometimes where in the world everyone works. I mean, you look at something like this, there's no business there. That's all housing. That's all people. You know, I think in New York City and Chicago, we have a lot of business intermixed with housing, if not more so. But there's just everywhere. I mean, I know it looks like a big fancy, it's just housing, just apartments. On top of apartments, on top of apartments, on top of apartments. And they're building them all the time. I mean, all over the place, they continue to build them. Okay, here's the song. And I took a picture of it because I remember really liking it years ago. But it's just funny to me that it sounded Russian to me. And I think the way it goes, let's see. I love thy kingdom, Lord, the house of thine abode. The church, our blessed Redeemer, saved with his own precious blood. Just sounded very different than what, like we'd sing it at Christmas, have kind of a tune like that. But I mean, their songs sound like it just sounds Russian to me. More of a minor chord sort of thing. So, but this is also Sasha. Trying to remember which line. This is Sasha Yashnikov. Okay, so at the non-instrumental congregation, which again we have a good relationship with, the Yashnikov family sort of is, I don't want to say in charge, but Victor Yashnikov, the husband, is one of the elders. Sasha is kind of in a situation where he's doing stuff because no one else will do it, which he does a great job, but the heart isn't there. You know what I mean? If you went to this guy's Facebook page, his passion is photography, and he teaches in an English school. He teaches in a school that are for the kids of all the diplomats that are in Belarus. Okay, is where he teaches. So it's funny, like he wasn't trained as an interpreter. In my opinion, he sounds the most American of anyone there. Like even Yulia has a little bit of a British accent, and Oleg, I mean, you're going to be able to, but he just talks like he's an American. And he came to America for, I think, a year or two, and I just don't know if he just picked it up that well, but I mean, his inflection and everything is just right on that. But Sasha's a really cool guy. I think he's just in a position where he doesn't have the desire. So this is his dad, Victor. This is his mom, Galina. You've heard us talk about Galina. She's great. There's a lot of law-mindedness in the congregations, you know, and they deal with that constantly. But this was the congregation on Workday morning. I spoke that morning, and I gave Mike a hard time. I'm like, all the times I remember to take pictures of you, you can't take a picture of me speaking. People will think I'm okay. This is how messed up Belarus is. Okay, we're coming out of assembly, and these 4 women are walking along with cameras. And we're all piling into the Oshtakovs like little itty bitty car so they can take us home. And these women come up, like, I can't remember how it happened. They literally come up to Sasha and they're like, can we take pictures of that guy? He looks interesting. So they drag Mike out of the car and start taking pictures of him. I mean, I was just cracking up. I'm like, I mean,
It's the hat.
I know it's the hat. Yeah, they're just like, this guy looks interesting. What's going on with him? So we were all just dying laughing, like, what in the world is wrong with, but it was like some photography club that was just walking around, taking pictures of interesting things. And they're like, that, well, that's what they were laughing about. They're like, probably show up on some unsavory website or something.
But I didn't have a 6-year.
But I thought that was so funny. I mean, they literally were bold enough. They just came up and asked, like, can you take some pictures of that guy? So, Mike should have been born in Belarus. Oh, sorry, this is sideways. And I will save that for next time because I think I wrote down and went to the Banya. But I'll leave you in suspense. It wasn't as bad as I thought. But does anyone know, I don't know if we have any sauna connoisseurs here. How hot do saunas normally get? I mean, I have only tried a sauna once ever at a hotel, and I didn't think it was that hot. This thing had a sauna, and I was more, of course, I'm not enjoying the experience because I'm sitting there doing all the math. But that sauna it ended up getting to 105 degrees Celsius. That is 227 degrees Fahrenheit. I was blown away. And it was that hot. I guarantee it was that hot. I used to have heat treatments for bed bugs in my apartments. And I've been in an apartment that was 147 degrees, and this was hotter than anything I've ever felt. I know, it's boiling. Well, that's what I kept telling Mike the whole week. I'm like, there was a tub of water that the birch leaves were in, which I'll talk about later. Okay? I'm like, how did that tub not boil? And I looked it up online, and they said, everything I found online said, yeah, a sauna could get that hot, but it would take, I can't remember how it worked, but they said it would be impossible for that water to ultimately boil because of the situation of the heat being, it's the same reason why you could live in a sauna. They're like, if it actually affected your body temperature that bad. But I've just never been in an environment that hot in my life. And I didn't realize it was a dry heat. Well, at one point, I thought the whole point of putting water on the stove, because you have this stone stove, I thought the whole point of putting water on the stove is that would cool the room. Doesn't cool the room. I didn't realize that. He literally splashed a couple drops of water because it started 100 degrees Celsius, and he splashed some water on that stove. And within 30 seconds, it was 105 degrees Celsius in there just from the stove. I was blown away. I couldn't believe how hot it was. But we went with Oleg and another gentleman, and I'll talk about it next week. I will throw out there though. I told Mike, I'm like, I've been telling people for about a year and a half, as an example of you stepping outside of your comfort zone for the love of the brethren. You go to the Banya, but I've now realized you love this, don't you? He's like, oh yeah, I love it. And he's like, this is fantastic. I mean, it is Mike's kind of thing. So, but not really my kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway,
Not Virginia, that's a different
but I'll finish up next week. Again, I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Any questions I can answer real quick before we finish up? About anything you saw? I can't believe this, but I have actually become interested in and started drinking hot tea since I got back. I didn't think I would, but I just noticed while I was over there, my stomach felt a lot better than it has in a long time, and so I've been drinking hot tea, which I didn't think I would, because you drink just endless hot tea over there all the time. Any questions? All right. Back here next week, again, we'll have our fellowship meal and afternoon study. This Thursday memorization class, we are up to verse 8, 1 John 3, 1 through 8. Anything else? Any birthdays? Anniversaries? Any dental appointments or chiropractor?
I was at my second shot.
There you go. Let's sing to David. All right, if there's nothing else, let's go to number 731. Let's go ahead and stand. Sing the first verse, 731, and then we'll be dismissed this morning. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Good job. I thought you wanted me to hold you.
Ellie doesn't count. Okay, Ellie did it.
Yeah, sorry.
No, Ellie. Ah! Ellie did it! Ruined his baby steps! I'm kidding! Ow! No. Puppy? She's missing! No, you can't do that! Okay, I want to stay in space. This whole thing, thanks. Penny.
Got water bottle?
Wait, no! I thought this was fine. Jesse! What? Stuff one word in the stage's face. Oh! Penny said, sorry, Penny. I didn't. Penny. Space! Kayla, tell me the plan. Okay, there you go. We control no? Okay.
This was the first.
Go, hey, Penny. No, wait, I'll go. Penny, how would you? Penny! 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 You're supposed to. You're supposed to. Not there. Na, 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 na. Out of the text, please. Never mind. Okay, I make up my own plan. You make up your own plan. I'm a one-man game going. Penny. Oh, you missed me. No, I tasked you, Dre. No, you can't tag where we're on base. Yes, I Hey, you go base! New person's allowed on base! You said no pussets allowed? There's no base. You said there's no pussets allowed on base. Penny, the Tigers are not allowed on base. Yeah. Hey, puppies. What? This is no only the stage space. No, Katie, the ball goes in the stage space. Okay. Hey, Kaylee, are you super fast? Yeah. And smart too. Hey, look. Did you just drop her? I'm faster than you. See? I'm off against the groceries. Uh-oh! Who's gonna catch me? No! Just out here, Penny. Penny, just stay here. I'm just gonna watch this thing like a hawk. Hey! I really want Penny to get it. I
might still have one at home.
You went on base. Penny, I got the bat A. Kaylee,
Yeah. Yeah.
no. Kaylee.
What? Clean up. I asked you to clean up.
Okay. See what's happening. Kaylee. Haley, you have to go after Dusty too, okay?
You're the second base.
Penny, you can't do that. You can't stay on base that
Only
long.
because it's rain.
Ah!
And I have.
Come on, Ellie. I mean, come on. Excuse me. Run, puppy, run! I need puppy.
I can't tell if this is. Yeah, this is it. Yeah. Yeah, because I have this stuff. Okay. Find them. All right.
Haley, it's wide open. Dusty, you go on base. Tag, Ellie's it. I tagged her. She's not playing. Ellie, try to get us. I want to fight. Oh. Your body. Did she touch you? No. Get her, This isn't base, so I can get on this, okay? Ellie, is it? No, Dusty. Ow!
Thank you.
Ellie's it! I'm doubling. Ellie's it! No, Ellie, get off base. Time is going well on base. Ellie, get off the stage.
Let's go bug.
Okay, I don't think Ellie wants to play. Ellie's a potty. We playing? Yeah. Ellie's a... Okay, maybe not. I'm leaving. I'm playing. I'm playing. Go Daddy. Tag. I'm playing. I'm playing. Isn't playing. Daddy. Okay. You're it. I'm playing. Okay, then you're it. Ellie, go attack Penny. Hey, Kaylee, I'm your puppy, okay? Alright. And you chase me. No, I don't. Get on base. Ellie, tag her. Ellie, I'm puppy. Ellie, tag her. That means Penny's it, 'cause she's off base. Hey, I'm a talking. Make sure she doesn't. I'm a talking dog. Make sure she doesn't tag you because we want her to be it the whole time. Wait, hey, Honor, I can do it. Run, Honor, run!
Yeah. Wait, which one?
Penny.
Guys, they want to get your shoes on.
All right. I'll try.
Good to see you guys. Have a good day.
And I have to get my shoes on. Haley. Haley. Dusty's leaving, so there's only 1% I can take. Me. Haley! You're so lit. Oh, thank you! Your hair is sticking to your nose.
I don't know. Josie, come here.
Mommy, can you get my shoes on?
Yeah.